Welcome. We're kicking off a discussion today that's actually been arranged by my tax accountant, a name I know will be, well, pretty familiar to many of you across the UK.
That's right.
We're going to be taking a really good look at a significant change announced in the Spring Statement 2025. It concerns how higher earners will repay child benefit going forward.
Exactly. And for those of you getting child benefit and maybe your adjusted net income is over £60,000, that's your income after certain deductions. Just to clarify, you'll likely already know about the high income child benefit charge, or HICBC. This basically reduces the amount of child benefit you effectively keep, and, well, the reduction gets bigger as your income goes up. It's worth remembering, too, these thresholds, they were lower not long ago, starting at $50,000.
Yeah, that changed recently.
It did, yeah. In April 2024, they went up to the current range, which is 60,000 to 80,000 pounds.
And, you know, if there's one thing we've heard again and again from people caught by this, it's the sheer frustration, really, of having to fill out a self-assessment tax return just to repay this child benefit.
Oh, definitely.
It feels like a major administrative burden, doesn't it? Especially if it's the only reason you're grappling with the whole self-assessment system.
Absolutely. And the numbers back that up.
They really do. The number of penalties issued kind of underlines it between 2021 and 2024. Over 130,000 people got hit with late filing penalties linked to the HICBC. That really gives you a sense of the scale of the problem.
Indeed. It shows how many people were struggling, or perhaps just unaware. And that's why this upcoming change, which is set to land in the summer of 2025, is, well, pretty noteworthy.
Right.
For employed individuals, people on payee who were subject to the HICBC, there's going to be a new option. Instead of that, mandatory self-assessment return, they'll have the choice to have the charge collected directly through their pay-as-you-earn tax code.
So the idea is to simplify things, cut down the paperwork.
That's the stated aim, yes. To reduce that red tape that, as you said, has been a real source of frustration for many.
Okay, let's unpack this new PAYE system a bit. See how it's actually going to work in practice. As we've said, right now, if you owe HICBC, you file self-assessment, make a lump sum payment by what, end of January?
That's the current setup, yes. By January 31st following the tax year. So under this optional PAYE system, what's different?
Yeah, what changes?
Well, the fundamental shift for employed people choosing this route is that the annual lump sum payment is replaced. Instead, you'll see deductions spread across your monthly payslips.
Ah, okay.
So rather than that one big hit in January, the repayment happens gradually, throughout the tax year.
That certainly sounds much more manageable, particularly for those who are just straightforwardly employed. But it's really key to stress, isn't it, that this is optional?
Absolutely crucial, yes. The official guidance is very clear. Choosing to have the HICBC collected via PAYE is not compulsory. It's a choice. If you prefer to stick with self-assessment, maybe you're self-employed anyway, or have other income like rental income, you declare you can absolutely carry on doing that.
So it's not forcing anyone?
Not at all. This new method just provides an alternative, really, for those people who find that self-assessment requirement just for HICBCs, well, a bit of a headache.
Right, got it. So who do you reckon will benefit most from this change? Maybe we could use a couple examples, hypothetical ones to make it clearer.
Yeah, good idea. Let's imagine Laura. She's a teacher, works for a school, so she's PAYE only. Let's say she earns £72,000 a year and has 2 children.
Okay.
Because her income is in that 60 to 80,000 pound bracket, she's liable for a partial high-income child benefit charge. Based on current child benefit rates, her annual charge would be somewhere around £3,350, give or take.
Okay. And currently,
Laura, being only employed through PAYE, has to complete a self-assessment return every single year just to repay that £3,350. That's, a recurring bit of admin she probably doesn't relish.
Yeah, that really does highlight the situation lots of people are in, just that one extra piece of official paperwork, all tied to child benefit.
Precisely. Now, fast forward to summer 2025 with the new PAYE collection system. If Laura chooses to opt in, HMRC will adjust her tax code.
How would that work?
Well, that adjustment would likely lead to a deduction of roughly £112.50 from her salary each month. So £1,350 divided by 12.
Right.
The really significant advantage for Laura is that this would potentially completely eliminate her need to file a self-assessment tax return, assuming nothing else changes in her finances that requires one.
That is a big reduction in hassle for someone like Laura.
Definitely. Now, what about someone whose finances are maybe a bit more complicated?
Okay, let's consider Kareem. He's a self-employed consultant earning, say, £90,000 a year, and he has one child.
So above the 80,000 pound threshold? Correct. His income means he has to repay the full amount of child benefit he receives. However, because Karem is self-employed, he already completes a self-assessment tax return every year anyway, right? To
Yeah.
declare his business income, expenses, and so on.
Sure, that's standard for self-employed people.
Exactly. So for him, opting into the payee system for HICBC collection, well, it wouldn't really offer any extra convenience. He's already doing the self-assessment process.
So she'd probably just stick with that.
He'd likely just continue reporting and paying the HICBC through his existing annual tax return. There's no real benefit for him switching that specific element to payee.
Okay, so it seems this new system is really targeted then. It's aimed squarely at helping those PAYE-only employees who are currently being dragged into self-assessment just because of this child benefit charge.
That's the core benefit, yes.
Yeah.
It's about simplifying the process for that specific group of taxpayers. Makes sense.
Now, when someone does choose the pay-I route, how does that actually look on their payslip? You mentioned tax code adjustments. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Sure. What happens is HMRC will estimate the person's HICBC liability for the upcoming tax year. They'll base this on information provided when the person opts into the system.
Okay.
Then they adjust the individual's tax code to collect that estimated amount over the year. It's a similar mechanism to how HMRC currently handles things like, say, underpaid tax from a previous year or maybe benefits in kind from an employer. Your tax-free personal allowance gets reduced.
Right, I see. Can you give us a quick sort of example? How might a tax code actually change?
Yeah, okay. Let's say someone has an estimated HICDC charge of, £1,000 for the year. To collect this £1,000 tax through PYE, HMRC would typically reduce their tax-free personal allowance.
By how much?
Well, for someone paying tax at the basic rate currently 20% in the UK, a £1,000 tax charge roughly translates into needing to tax an extra £5,000 of income. So they'd reduce the tax-free allowance by about £5,000. This reduction in the tax-free allowance is then spread across the tax year. So it results in a slightly higher amount of income tax being deducted from their monthly salary. In this £1,000 example, it would mean about $83 more tax per month being deducted.
Gotcha. So it's not necessarily like a separate line item on the payslip saying child benefit repayment. It's more baked into the overall income tax deduction because the code changed.
Exactly. It's reflected in the total tax you pay each month via your tax code adjustment.
And how can people, keep track of these changes, check their tax code?
The best way, really, for individuals to monitor their tax code and understand any adjustments is by using their personal tax account. That's on the gov.uk website.
Yeah, the online portal.
Yes. That lets you view your current tax code, and crucially, it often provides explanations for why changes have been made. It's a really useful tool just for staying on top of your tax affairs generally, not just for HICBC.
Good tip. Now, even with this high-income child benefit charge kicking in for people, it's often still a good idea for families to actually claim child benefit in the first place, isn't it? Even if they know they'll have to repay some or all of it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Even if the HICBC applies to you, there are several really important reasons why claiming child benefit is still beneficial.
Like what?
Well, firstly, and this is a big one, by claiming, a non-working partner, perhaps someone staying at home to care for the children, receives national insurance credits.
Ah, okay. And why are they important?
These credits are crucial for building up their entitlement towards the state pension later in life. Without claiming child benefit, they might miss out on these valuable credits.
Right. That's a really key point. What else?
Secondly, when a child reaches 16, claiming child benefit automatically triggers the allocation of their national insurance number.
Oh, does it?
Yes. It's an administrative step that just happens. Otherwise, parents would need to actively apply for it separately, so it saves a bit of hassle down the line. And finally, sometimes just having proof you receive child benefit can be needed to demonstrate eligibility for other entitlements or benefits. It acts as a sort of gateway proof in some cases.
So yeah, it's definitely not just about the cash value each week. There are these broader implications for national insurance, admin for the kids, and potentially other benefits too.
Precisely. Worth considering the whole picture.
And it's also worth just mentioning that the child benefit rates themselves, they're actually increasing from April 7th, 2025, aren't they?
Yes, that's right. Another change happening. From April 7th, 2025, the weekly rate for the first or only child goes up to 26.05.
And for other children.
And the rate for each additional child will be 17.25 per week. So these increases mean the total annual amounts people receive will also go up slightly.
Which makes it even more important, I guess, for families to check if they're eligible and understand these wider benefits of claiming, even if the HICBC might apply to them.
Exactly. The sums involved are increasing.
So, okay, to sort of wrap things up, bring it all together, what's the main takeaway message for people listening today?
I think the key point to remember is that this upcoming option and a stress option, again, to have the high income child benefit charge collected through PAYE starting summer 2025, is really intended to simplify tax for many employed parents in the UK earning over that current income threshold.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like a welcome step, something designed to cut down on unnecessary admin burdens and hopefully help people avoid those penalty charges if they were only in self-assessment because of this child benefit repayment thing.
Exactly. This change really does have the potential to make a genuine difference for quite a few families just by streamlining the process.
Okay. And if any of our listeners are thinking, right, how does this specifically affect me? Or they want tailored advice on their own tax situation, what would you recommend?
Well, for that kind of personalized advice, and to really understand the best approach for your specific individual circumstances, UK taxpayers should definitely consider getting in touch with the experts. The team at My Tax Accountant would be ideal.
Right.
They'll be able to provide specific guidance based on your particular income, your family situation, and help you navigate these changes.
Excellent. Well, that's certainly food for thought. Thanks for clarifying all that.
My pleasure.